Okay, welcome to the call that's called ECIP-1078 Phoenix upgrade. Today we meet to discuss the potential fix for the plan hard for fee proposal. Bob Summerville and wait. Aslan was specified in ECIP 1061. We specifically decided to apply Istanbul to Ethereum Classic without including data pointed out this was not a good idea due to the missing self-balance opcode, and he proposed a series of fixes for Aslan, or proposed recommendations how to move on with this. Bob melted them into 3 different ECIPs, which are 1078, and we are discussing now. Bob, do you want to give a high-level overview?
Sure. Just to note as well, your microphone kept cutting out there. I guess everyone else had that. Can people hear me clearly?
Yes. Yeah. And after your mic was pretty choppy.
So perhaps I can re-summarize what S1C was saying, which was that the original 1061 Azatlan Yingsheng edition, which was agreed on the call in November, was essentially Istanbul scope minus 1884, really on the understanding that that specification would be effectively Istanbul, but without the repricings, which notably broke the Aragon smart contracts. But then when Wei actually implemented that spec, both in parity and multi-geth, there were 2 flaws that he discovered in the specification. The first was that 1884 has a variety of different changes in it, including the addition of a self-balance opcode, which certainly we didn't want to get rid of. But that baby was thrown out accidentally with the bathwater. The second piece is an interaction that there was with the for EIP 1283, which is net gas metering for S-Store without dirty maps. So essentially that there was an interaction between that change and 1884, that on the Ethereum mainnet, the 2 were activated together. But in our case, we were activating it without the corresponding changes within 1884. So what Phoenix does, which is ECIP 1078, is effectively an overlay on top of Azatlan, which fixes those 2 misspecifications so that we get what we thought we were getting in the first place, which is effectively Istanbul, but without the repricing elements within 1884, which were not backwards compatible. So Phoenix activation, we're still targeting for the same mainnet target block as Azatlan, but activation on the 2 test nets needs to happen a little later. In the case of Mordor, because Azatlan has activated on Mordor already, so we can't go into Time Machine and fix that. Certainly the application on Mordor has to be later. But on Kotti as well, We just need a little bit more time for those implementations. But the goal is that effectively this Phoenix, which is an Azatlan fix, will happen on the same timeline, and we basically rectify that misspecification. Okay, that's me.
Thank you, Bob. So, would you briefly speak about the difference between 1078, 79, and so everyone is in the picture what we are discussing?
Sure. So what we're discussing today is 1078. So 1078 is the Azatlan fix. There was another alternative. So both of these, by the way, are ECIPs which implement specifications which Wei had made on his own This World website. So I just wrote up the ECIPs for them, but the specifications are his. So 1078 is, colloquially Azatlan fix, i.e. overlaying a second hard fork. So you have two hard forks activating at the same time that give you the effect of a single hard fork. It's as though we had fixed the original specification, apart from we didn't fix it. We just overlaid two to have the same effect. 1079 is an alternative, which was colloquially Azatlan redo. So the idea on 1079 is that Azatlan 1061 would have been withdrawn, and we would have done a replacement hard fork at a different time. Basically that Azatlan would be aborted, and we would have a new and replacement hard fork, which would have the new scope. So the effect of either 1078 fix or 1079 redo would be the same. The only difference would be timelines. Now, we were, a little bit concerned over the last few weeks on those timelines, of thinking that the activation was planned for March 25th, which is 8 weeks away. Not so much necessarily on whether that timeline could be met, but whether the timeline on the testnet activations would end up being rushed. So that those sort of things would be the factors that would favor a redo over a fix more than anything. But then it turned out that the estimated time of activation of March the 25th, which was an estimate which was made back in December, is actually a long way away from the looking likely reality of when that activation will occur. So right now, if I look at ETC nodes, if I look at the Azatlan dashboard there, the running estimate for activation there is June the 8th. We've had other estimations with slightly different methodologies, but
Bob, I think you've gone dark or silent. If that's not just me.
No, there's a very, given that time, which is 124 days to go, doing a redo. I don't know that there's any case whatsoever for doing a redo. Redo is only really about, well, look, we need more time. We don't need more time. So fix is looking sensible. Something else that I raised was the possibility of actually setting earlier dates now with that knowledge for Phoenix. to actually do the activation of all of the things within Phoenix, so that actually when the time came for activation of Azatlan, it wouldn't do anything because it would already have been activated. But changing the order of the hard forks is, I have been told, and I believe, just way too risky, that there may be some edge cases and so on. So, and 1080, the other one, is the specification for the self-balance. So that's a standalone specification of self-balance, so that the specifications that you have both within the fix and redo are essentially, activate the standalone self-balance. And then the other piece is to do with the activation of the of the other one, the dirty map S store repricing.
Thank you, Bob. So basically, the redo, the 10 is stable because Aslan already activated on one of the testnets. And we want to discuss if we want to proceed with the fixed hard fork, which should activate on a distinct block number on the testnet, but on the same block number on the mainnet, to fix Aslan on the mainnet. Does anyone have technical questions around the self-balance proposal 1080, or about the Phoenix hard fork meta proposal 1078? Does anyone have any concerns or who's fixing plan? Or does everyone agree we should move on with the intention of having Istanbul, as we did on the Aslan calls, have out the gas repricing? So
maybe you could just re-say that. You were really, really choppy through all of that there. Can you get really close?
I'll get closer to my mic. If I break up, it's my internet connection, and I'm already switching back and forth between Wi-Fi and mobile. I'm sorry, it's the best I can do. Can you understand me at all?
We can hear you clearly now. Could you just repeat the last bit of what you said?
Okay, sorry. Does everyone agree that we should fix the Aslan with an additional hard fork on the same block height as specified in 1078 by, and let me quickly open it to read it out, what it actually. So 1078 enables the self-balance opcode as specified in ECIP. It disables the EIP 2200 and instead the 1283 with 1706. Let me open them just to give. Right, these are the net gas metering proposals. And Bob, do you want to comment on why we would need 1706 instead of 2200?
Sorry, I was just in transit there. If you can give me 2 minutes. If there's something else you can talk about briefly.
Okay. Does anyone have any technical concerns going forward with the Phoenix hard fork as fixed for us? Then I want.
Shoot, I'm sorry. I was on mute. Are the activation numbers that are currently in ECIP-1078, are those accurate?
No, there is a pull request open with the number. I think it's 285. Let me check it. I just wanted to talk about the timeline because we proposed new block numbers for the testnets, but it's still a pending pull request, and but it's the same block number for mainnet, but the date is off. It's around June, as Bob already said.
Okay, I'm looking at pull request number 285, which is titled Move ECIP 1078 Fixed Last Call. Move ECIP 1079 to withdrawn. And so,
Exactly.
so that's actually the change that we should be treating as canonical and as the topic of this conversation.
Exactly. This is ideally this pull request will be merged after this call if we all agree that this is a way moving forward. This basically moves this to last call to indicate this is close to be accepted by the call. This proposes accurate, more updated block numbers for the test nets. It updates the dates for mainnet, which moved a little bit due to variances in block times. And most importantly, it adds a review period end, which is end of March. So we have almost 8 weeks now to do proper implementation and testing of the proposals in all clients, and the review period end is so long because we have plenty of time for mainnet, and we want to make sure that everything works out in the client integration and on the public testnets.
Hey, I'm back. So yes, the block numbers which are proposed in that pull request for 1078 see Mordor activation for Phoenix on block 976,231. It sees Coty activation on block 2,208,209 on Coty, and activation on the mainnet at the same block as Phoenix, which is block 10,500,839. So S1C's latest approximation there for that mainnet activation would be around June the 10th. The estimation for where are we? For Coty would be around March the 11th, and for Mordor would be around March the 4th. So I'm just editing that PR again based on some review comments, but essentially those are the details. Yes.
Thank you. And can you comment on the changes regarding net gas metering?
Right. Yes. Let me just pull that up. Yeah. So essentially, all of this is out of the review of Istanbul, which is available in corepaper.org/Ethereum/fork/Istanbul. So there are essentially there were three things which Wei highlighted there in that 1061 specification, which is the first one is that as it's the specification that we're proving to go forward with does not fix this potential vulnerability related to tree access under price. So as he says, it effectively leaves the vulnerability open. So that, that's just basically a known consequence of not applying 1884, is that we still have this vulnerability that needs addressing, either by future protocol changes on our side or other client side changes. So, I mean, that was the decision that we made there in November, was that we did not want to make a backwards compatibility break to address this. That we need to address it in future another way. The other pieces here were the self balance as dealt with, so that we address that by having a standalone specification for self balance. And then the third one is an inconsistency in the net gas metering. So I'll just read out what he says there. Azatlan decided to include EIP 2200 for S-Store net gas metering. However, it did not thoroughly consider the facts that EIP 2200 is designed within the full context of Istanbul hard fork, whose preconditions that Istanbul does not fulfill. Net gas metering has a family of EIP specifications, including EIP 1283, EIP 1706, and EIP 2200. The specifications contain a parameter of dirty gas, which is charged when a storage value has already been modified in the same transaction context. This value, as in the design intention, is expected to always equal to the value of S-load gas store. In EIP 2200, this dirty gas is set to be 800, so as to accommodate EIP 1884's gas cost change of S-load from 200 to 800. However, Azatlan does not include EIP 1884, but only applied EIP 2200, resulting in inconsistency in the EIP design intent and may lead to unknown gas cost issues. This has also led to confusions in implementations. For example, a contributor previously merged an incorrect version of Azatlan hard fork into parity Ethereum. This, if left unspotted, will lead to a consensus split on the whole Ethereum Classic network. So his recommendation there is to remove EIP 220 from the applied specification list and add EIP 1283 with EIP 1706 instead. So, and my understanding there is essentially that there was different activation approaches that were available. As this feature went through its own journey. I believe that at Constantinople, the activation approach was incorrect and changed and fixed for Petersburg. So this is a sort of a bit of a messy one, but I mean, but in short, it was an interaction with 1884, and then when 1884 was removed, this sort of edge case came in. So we're basically looking to activate the same functionality, but with a slightly different approach, which is then consistent again.
Thank you, Bob. This is very clear now. Just for historical context, the EIP 1283 we are talking about was indeed the reason why Constantinople had to be pulled on Ethereum and to be fixed. And this ECIP-1076 that we are now going to activate on Classic was never applied to Ethereum in favor of the ECIP-2200. But now going forward with this fixed hard fork, this seems to be the most sensible way.
And also, my understanding is that code is in the clients already, or was on a certain timeline. So while we are doing the activation in a different way to Ethereum, in the end, it's not like these are unknown code paths. These are code paths which were built and tested out, but were just slightly wrong for Ethereum's activation. But then they turn out actually be the way that we should proceed ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. They are, at least I know they are in both in parity and in multi-gas available.
Right. It might be net new implemented, or maybe not. I guess because Pantheon was around at that time as well, eh? So anyway, ChainSafe will find out soon enough.
Does anyone have technical questions around the Phoenix hard fork fix for Aslan? Or does anyone want to raise any other concerns? I would propose accepting Bob's pull request to move the Phoenix hard fork as proposed in ECIP-1078 to last call, basically meaning this is accepted unless we find major issues within the review period of 8 weeks. Does anyone oppose moving the Phoenix hard fork to last call? Speak up now, please.
And to be clear, the only moving parts in that pull request right now are in text around the dates. The review that's ongoing is essentially just around the exact wording of how we say the dates. I'm just wanting to be clear that the future dates are approximations, where the way it was written before was just basically block number, brackets, and actual date. And as we've seen on that March 25th, it's very easy for that to be misconstrued as, well, you said it was this date and it isn't. You lied. So that's the only change that I have pending is clear wording to say these are approximations and it's the block number that's accurate.
To be clear, the block number hasn't changed, right?
Correct.
So I would declare a consensus moving ECIP 1078 to last call now. And Bob, if you could just move on preparing this pull request, and then we can see if we can get this merged today.
Yes, I'm doing that right now.
Okay, and then we can instruct the client developers to start integrating it for the test. Okay, thank you for this. Bob, you asked to go through some other points in the ECIP agenda.
Yes. So there's a number of ECIPs where I had made a suggestion that we reject some long-standing ECIPs which are essentially misaligned with both philosophy and general consensus on approach. Within that ECIP process on GitHub, it's been suggested that those should be raised on a call before we came to that conclusion. So let me just pull those ones up. Okay, so the first one is ECIP-1051, which is Ethereum Classic Treasury System. So that is a proposal which was made by Dexeran, and the date on that proposal was December 2018. So it's basically sat there for over a year. There appears to be no consensus whatsoever on moving forward with that. In fact, a strong rejection of that. So I have a pull request pending to move the status there to rejected. So I would just like to see if we can come to consensus on that. Does anyone oppose that rejection? Would anyone else like to speak out in support of that rejection?
I don't think anybody supported it from the start, to be honest.
I linked it in the ECIP channel, like pull request 229 for anyone to look at.
So I guess I just asked, is anyone opposed to this rejection? And if not, then let's please proceed with that.
No.
Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, I guess we take that as consensus. The next one is pull request 230. And the ECIP there is ECIP 1057, which is cold staking. So cold staking, again, a proposal from Dexeran, which was made on March the 31st, 2019. Similar kind of unpopular sort of feature, not really aligned. Another Callisto feature. So again, I would just ask, is there anyone who opposes rejection of the cold staking proposal?
Nope.
Okay, I will take that as consensus. The next one is pull request 231, which is ECIP 1052, which is smart contract auditing core. Again, from Dexeran, again, a Callisto feature. So the date on this proposal was December the 31st, 2018. The smart contract security auditing core, essentially the proposal there was that based on the treasury proposal that he had made, that treasury fund would be used for security auditing. Again, security auditing, not many people have a problem with security auditing, but people do have a problem with the use of a centralized treasury model to support that. So again, I would ask, does anyone object to the rejection of this proposal?
No.
Okay, I will take that as consensus. The next change is pull request 203, which is ECIP 1063, integrated decentralized oracles and smart contracts. This is a proposal that was made by Jesse Nugent on July the 21st, 2019, in which he says, imagine how we can use ETC features which can assist dApps and ERC-220 tokens to accomplish their goals. So in this case, what happened was that a community member, Jesse Nugent, had a suggestion, and I guess to humor him, to make him feel welcome to bring his proposals. It was suggested that he author an ECIP for his proposal, which he did, which is this proposal. Myself, and I've said this in public to him, I think we actually did him a disservice by encouraging him to do that, because there was no consensus that was a good feature. In fact, it's a very poor choice to try and integrate an Oracle system into the core of the protocol itself. Oracle systems, there are a number of Oracle, but the correct layering for those really is on top of the protocol. Having a single built-in Oracle service is really pretty unwise. So I think we actually did him a disservice by not just telling him that. He actually spent a lot of time generating this proposal, which really had no chance of ever going through. So what I'm suggesting here is that, again, this proposal be rejected because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Does anybody have an objection to that rejection? Okay, I will take that as consensus. The other thing that I had suggested, S1C, is that there are a handful of other ECIPs which look like they are ready for merging. I don't know whether you feel that we should talk through those or whether we don't even need to necessarily talk through those. Whether we can just proceed with them just on GitHub, or we could just talk through them, and then at least having that consensus here maybe makes it. What do you think? How many more? There's about 5, so it should only take a few minutes. Okay, I'll just talk through them quickly. Pull request 286 is ECIP-1085, simple subroutines for the EVM proposal. This is a proposal which is in process right now on Ethereum from Greg Colvin to add 2 opcodes for subroutines. So this is a simpler version of the subroutine support that was formerly part of EIP-615. The bonus of this new approach on subroutines, though, is that it is entirely backwards compatible. So it's very simple. So what this pull request is proposing is just that this be moved into draft status. The work is actually happening. Greg is working on implementation for this as we speak. So I would just like us to track that as well. Does anybody object to that merge? Or have any questions around subroutines?
I don't think we need to discuss drafts on a call.
Okay.
From what I understand, as long as they are technically sound, they can be merged, and I have no objections to go on with this, but we should not discuss all drafts now, unless there are. No, actually not. No.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's around 5 or 6 drafts which look like they're ready for merging. So yeah, let's just move on then. I have no more in that case.
I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I believe it's critical to meet on calls to move things to accepted. and have everything else on the repository. If it's too slow, then we might just need more hands on the editor side, or maybe need more or better tools for discussing proposals in the community. But yeah, I hope you understand what I mean.
Totally, yeah.
What about ERC-223 move to last call?
Ah, yes. Sorry, I'd not spotted that. So, where is this? Yes, so this is pull request 232, ECIP-1021, move ERC-223 token standard to last call on its path to accepted and then final. So ERC-223 is a token standard, a successor to ERC-20, to address the the well-known issue with 220. There are other token standards which have become more popular, but essentially what is that ERC-223, it is in use, but this particular ECIP is still sitting in draft. So the proposal is to move that forward from draft into a last call status, and then through to accepted and final. Does anybody have objections to proceeding with the the blessing essentially of 223?
I'm not objecting to it at all. I just wonder if it's necessary. I guess that there's a corresponding and theoretically duplicate document that lives at the EIP repository space. So if this is duplicate, then what good is it doing for ETC in particular? And
well, there are the reason really for pulling it through is that there are ERC-220 tokens live. This is a standard which is in use in real life right now, but the actual specification has not gone through that process. It's just sitting there in draft when it is actually live. So
I understand. Has it been moved through the process at the EIP location?
I'm not sure. Let me have a look.
And
I don't think it has.
And is it the intention then for an ERC document that would correspond potentially to its equivalent that would exist at the EIP repository? Is it the idea that we ought to or can / may have documents, parallel documents handling specifications for quote unquote live / real world tokens that exist on ECIP?
Well, I think
that exists on Ethereum Classics.
I think the reason for the confusion perhaps is that Dexaram was pushing this standard on both sides at the same time.
Right.
But it actually came to reality on the ETC side. That there are live ERC-223 tokens on Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps
is Saturn the only person that has the ERC-223 token? And then my other question would be, does the ERC 777 sort of supersede that, and doesn't it have a lot more sort of polarity and I don't know, Pulse in terms of standards across updated tokens? So wouldn't 777 be the thing that we would standardize eventually on? Just throwing that out there.
Well, but the thing is that we don't have to have a single standard. There are multiple token standards. So people have built 223 tokens. The fact that is sitting in a draft is doing nobody any service. I think it either needs to be closed down and finished, or just thrown away entirely. That would be the other alternative. But given that there are 223 tokens live and there is this standard for it, it seems a bit silly to just keep it in this middle ground.
So I guess I would make a motion. I'm looking at this PR right now for ECIP 1021, and I'm looking upstream at the ERC draft that's filed as an issue at Ethereum/EIPs. Without me typing and Googling, my keyboard is very loud. Has this token standard been filed at the EIP's repository as an EIP specification?
No.
It was my understanding that ERCs are standards that are not specifications. They're just suggested and essentially vaguely community endorsed standards, a way of sharing reusable patterns for cases like this, like writing contracts that do common jobs.
Yeah, and if you look at the category for this one on air, it is an ECBP, so it is a best practice, and that is our equivalent of an ERC. So this is not a protocol level standard; it's just a best practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In that case, do you think that it's do you think it's best practice to merge or to manage best practice specifications adjacent to protocol specifications in the same place? I guess I'm asking you if you think that it might be like more extensible or healthier in the future to create a new repository called ECBPs or ERCs or something like that. But to me, I guess my only flag is that it just seems kind of like a black sheep for the task that it's doing.
I'm just wondering how many other ECBPs we have.
And that's the other question is, if we're trying to, I want to think about building patterns and practices that, somebody coming to this can understand what's going on. And if they find a specification for a single token standard, in fact, there are lots of token standards that are accepted and in the wild and existing on Ethereum Classic networks. So it might be a little bit misleading to think that there is only one accepted token standard that lives in the quote-unquote official ECIP's repository. And then if it becomes the job to standardize or present documents that establish standards for all existing tokens that happen to be live on Ethereum Classic nets, then I think we're probably biting off more than is worth chewing.
The other primary ECBP which we have is 1050, which is the status codes proposal from Fission that there was a presentation on at ETC Summit 2019 as well. Now that status codes proposal, it's a very mature, great standard in my mind. And that is something which I think is worthy of endorsement. But yeah, as you say, the quality line, I guess, is slightly different for ECBPs versus other tracks of specification that we have. In that, these are just optional niceties, essentially.
Right.
Isaac, another question. We already have ERC-20 deployed on ETC, but we don't have it within the track. I don't think so. And I was also thinking about proposing ERC-721 for NFTs, like non-fungible tokens on ETC as like a best practice sort of document. Do you think there also shouldn't be on the ECIP repo and should be separate?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really have any firm opinions at this point. I'm just my only intention is to raise a flag noting that there seems to be different sort of species of documents going on here. Maybe one answer for this particular case with ERC-223 which is presented as ECIP-1021, is that I noticed that the front matter has the type listed as a standards track document, and it's my understanding that it sounds like this would be maybe better suited to being an informational track ECIP.
I partially agree with Isaac, and mainly on the part that we are wasting our time here. I believe if this should be going through last call and stuff, then maybe we need someone to champion it, and maybe it would be nice if the original author does this. But I do not oppose having ECBPs in the ECIP's repository, and I believe it should be always open for informational proposals or standards or helping the work around it. But I don't think we should have dev calls for accepting ERC 223. I mean, if we really want to champion for this to go through last call to accept the final, I personally believe it should go directly to final because it's live on mainnet on both Ethereums, and we can, if nobody agrees, it takes a shortcut here. It's just a.
I mean, my main reason for making this proposal is just to get it off our cognitive load. You know, it just needs to go one way or the other. And I'd just like us to make a decision so that we don't have to keep talking about it, and it can be out of our, working set of things to be looking at.
Yeah, since it's nothing, it's not protocol layer, not consensus relevant, then I would suggest just move it to final because it's out in the wild.
And just for me,
ERC
to reject it, since it's not a standards track ECIP, the document is already existing and duplicated and commonly referenced at the EIP's repository.
It's not.
So how about this then? If I were to change the pull request to reject instead, would there be consensus on that? Really, with the understanding that if the author or others wished to bring this back to the table, they should make a new proposal.
No, this should not be rejected. It should be moved to final because it's already final.
Okay, if I were to change instead of last call to change it to go to final, would there be consensus on that or not?
Bob, it sounds to me like we need to have some more asynchronous and documented conversation at this issue.
I agree.
Okay, I agree too. Yeah. Let's stop talking about it then. Okay.
Okay, I guess that's our call, unless someone else wants to bring up something.
Thanks, Effie.
Thank you, Effie.
No, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks, Alfred.